Hi everybody, this is Diane. I am here with two finished books. They are in my shop, ready to find their new home. They are both made with Wonder Books and vintage Wonder Books, and they both are about dolls. So let's just go in and see what we have here. This is, I don't know the date. It was given to somebody in 1964, and it's 1962 is the copyright. It's called The Doll Family, and I did not read the story, but the story is illustrated with these photographs of a felt doll family, and they're handmade little pieces of furniture. It's really cute. It was 29 cents back in 1962. I created a new spine for it, and I used the flexible file folders to create that spine, so it is a flexible spine. And I added this really cute star printed fabric. I painted the file folder, because it's a dark green, I painted that with a cream paint so that you couldn't see the dark file folder through the fabric. I added some rose colored rickrack, and the cover itself is in good shape. I put an eyelet here and used some thread, cotton thread, to thread some beads onto it, and I love those see-through beads, and the strands get tangled up, so you know, you live with it, or if you don't like it, you can just snip it and it'll come right off. But I like it, and I don't mind it getting tangled. I don't know if it would bother you. It's tied so that it's loose enough here so that you can just swing it right up out of your way when you're using the journal. There are 3 signatures, and I think there are 36 pages front and back in each signature, so 36 times 3. I had to cover up part of the picture here because I wanted to use the book plates with the little girl and the dolls, since both of the journals they feature dolls. So I wanted to use that, and I guess that's it. The original owner's name is still there. You can put a label or something there, but I didn't want to cover up. It's very nice handwriting, and it does say the date that this young lady received this book, July 17th, 1964. But you can write your own name up here. On the front signature, it's cardstock, pattern cardstock, and I used a textured and painted piece of gray cardstock to make a pocket, and I added this image from a children's book. There are lots of illustrations from children's books in here. This is just a postcard that came out of a postcard book about Sayre, Pennsylvania, where I live, and this is the Lehigh Valley Railroad Station in Sayre. It is now a restaurant. It's either that one that's a restaurant, or maybe that's the Historical Society Museum. I don't remember. That might be the museum one. And there's a, it's an illustration, so there's a train there, and it says reproduced for Sayre Centennial 1991. I did a lot of, it's like if you watched the journal that I made for my daughter, has a lot of similarities. I used a lot of my hand-stamped images, and this was on paper that I painted, and then I stamped on top of it. This says it's all in the details. There is dyed paper, and I made a little pocket here with a border punch edge on it. I included some of the Go Fish, Little Golden Book Go Fish cards, because it's a Golden Book journal. So that's the pig. And just put a large index card in here with a book illustration, and I used some of the just strips of cut off papers for decorations in here too. Excuse me. There's a pattern paper here. I took some of the strips of the dyed papers and the ledger paper, the green ledger, and just sewed them to a piece of scrapbook paper, and zigzag stitch with black thread. Now this is interesting because I painted around the edges of this page, and I just noticed now that the water seeped through and gave an interesting edge to that paper. I like that. I hope you do. This is a postcard from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I purchased a collection of postcards from the Metropolitan Museum of Art when I visited New York City years ago. So I am sharing them. And then this is one of the tags that I made in a Tag Tuesday recently. Book illustration, of course. And then this says, "Enjoy the simple moments." I did some stenciling on a flashcard and shaped it into a tag and then did the rest. And it says duck on the back. Small here because he is a small duck. So again, I painted with my stamp pads, and I did a video on this in one of my process videos, and then splattered. That's one of my inked pieces that I stamped onto a colored parchment paper, and this is a stamp on one of my painted papers. This is a children's piano instruction book, and I made a fabric flip with some Dick and Jane fabric. There's a green ledger. I just stapled a tiny, tiny little playing card here with a piece of colored cardstock behind it and just tucked in this little flash card. There's some wrapping paper. The book is in here in its entirety and in the right order. Just have to erase the numbers. When I disassemble the book, I number the pages so I can make sure I get them back in the right order. Another colored dyed paper, and it says "Kind words never fade." That is a stamp that I have. I made a fabric cluster with this cute little duck fabric. And this is from another Dick and Jane fabric, and it was just some strips of text, the famous lines of text from the Dick and Jane books. It says, "Come here and look up." I made a pocket out of a flashcard, and I took these little pages from a tiny little book and reinforced it, and then added some pages inside to create a little journaling booklet. Another page that I painted, and a stamped bird that I cut out and glued on. And this has a scripture verse, Romans 12:12, "Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer." I made a slotted pocket and decorated it with just some fussy cuts and a stamped image, and tucked in a bunch of things. There's a little tiny playing card, a stamped piece, a tiny tag that was die cut, some more tags, and a little playing card of an elephant. And up here, I just folded a piece of Monopoly money, tucked that in there. That's a stamped piece and just a tag. I stamped a cute little bunny here, washing his paw. And here it says, "I love you more than," and it has 3 lines to write on. It's just a stamped piece. Here is an illustration from a Mother Goose book, and I backed it onto cardstock. I glued down her sash ties, and I glued down the cat because I didn't want his tail to keep popping up. So I glued it all down, so the only space is just a skinny space here, but there's a journaling spot and a piece of vintage ephemera for a pancake supper. I don't know the date. It says Saturday, December 7th, but there's no year on it, but it's pretty old. And that just tucks in there like that. The second signature has another pocket on the front with a book illustration. And inside is a postcard from a little golden booklet of postcards. Blessings brighten when we count them. You can see I use little strips of cut-off papers in various places in the book. Another postcard, be unique, and do you like to wish? Flashcard tag. You can see little spots that come through, little areas that come through from when I did the painting. And that didn't really come through unless I sprayed it. So I sprayed water on some of the spots to kind of make the ink paint that I used. It was just a stamp pad. You can see it if you watch my process videos, but I sprayed it to make them blend a little more. I made a fabric flip here with a paper doll fabric. Another tiny little playing card there. Wrapping paper, one of my favorites. And here's a little cluster with a fabric fox. These are both stamped elements. It says write a letter up here, but you can just use that to journal whatever you'd like. It says Run Jane Run. Another booklet that I made. This is just a pocket that I've had in my stash. It was from something else that I made and took apart a long time ago. And I just love this paper, so I didn't want to get rid of this. So I made it into a pocket here. And this has a postcard featuring a Nancy Drew book, The Scarlet Slipper Mystery, and a recipe card. I love this bright orange paper, and there's a frog stamped on it, and up here it says, time's fun when you're having flies. Another image from a children's book. I love that sweet little lady sweeping. Must be outside. She's maybe sweeping her sidewalk because there are flowers here. And I didn't notice till I was fussy cutting her closer that she has slippers on her feet. So I am not sure what that story was. And she is on an embossed card that I also brushed with some paint on a dry brush. I just took a strip of leftover paper, the dyed paper, and sewed it to the top there with a fancy stitch. And the third signature, we have another gorgeous illustration from an old children's book. It's got green ledger behind it, and I added this postcard of beautiful daylilies. You can tell I use black thread throughout the book. And this little frog I had cut out for something else, and I didn't use him, so I added him to the bottom of that pocket. This is 2 pieces of leftover cardstock there. And here is the Go Fish card with the Tawny Scrawny Lion, and just a plain vintage postcard with a 2-cent stamp. You could actually use that. You'd have to add more postage to it, but you could actually use that for a postcard. And this is just a cut-off piece. It looks like wood, and I added a couple little scraps of the paper to it and a stamped star. And I put a vintage greeting card in there from your little girl daddy, Mary Teresa. You can open it right up and write on it. It's just a sweet card. And then this tag that I made, love with all your heart. And this fabric flip has nursery rhyme fabric on it. This is a Kate Greenaway gift wrap, children's book page. There's the donkey fabric, a little place to write here. This says, run, run, come and play. Another little booklet. I didn't mention that after I painted and splattered these, I took a fine line black pen and circled, just kind of doodled around it. And here we have another slotted pocket. This one has a little piece, it looks like a bread tag with places to write. Oh, I need to glue that better. But I made that with my Cricut a long time ago. And here is a genuine vintage cigarette card. My friend Leanda from Australia sent that to me a long time ago. I haven't heard from Leanda in a while. I hope she's doing well. And here's a tiny little tag. I think someone sent that to me also. Tiny playing card. Some real tickets here and a digital ticket. And a stamped tag. Right there. There's Raggedy Ann and Andy. I included them because it is a book about dolls. Pretty little stamp here of a bird and some flowers, and it says sing. And one more pocket, well, two more pockets. These look like they might have come from the same book. This is just a black and white illustration, and I added a little fabric ruffle there. And one of the postcards, little golden book postcards, and a recipe card. And I left the end papers here, but I covered this corner with another book illustration. And where did these come from? They were in here, so it's another. This came from the Masterpiece game. And a recipe card. Is that the same illustration that I used in the book from a postcard? I'll have to look, and if it is, I will replace one or the other of them with something different. Here is a greeting card, vintage card, and again you can open that up and write in there some secret stuff, and just a library card, and I put my signature there. It's just plain otherwise. Okay, so this one is the doll family, and I'll go through this one more quickly. It's called The Surprise Doll. It basically has the same colors on the cover. This one has more red and this one has more orange. And I use the same star fabric, and this one has a white and purple rickrack. It has beads again. The back of this one was darker. And again, it has that book plate. This is Van Gogh postcard. And this book is from 1949, so it's quite a bit older than the other one. Focus on the good, and the back of that says work. This is another patchwork pocket and a stamped piece. And I just put a few pieces of ribbon. Some of them are sheer, so it's hard to see, but some ribbon behind that. The nursery rhyme fabric. Be Your Own Kind of Beautiful. This one has a poodle on the cluster. So this is about a little girl and her dog collection that her father brought to her from his travels. Dick and Jane, 1, 2, 3. It just says Ann Jane up here. A booklet that I made. Experience is not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens to you. I'm not going to take everything out, but it's one of the larger slotted pockets with a bunch of items tucked in, and there's a cigarette card there. Always be on the lookout for the presence of wonder. We did this pocket and tag in a video. I loved the way all this orange and green looked together. Well, I know it was in there. Got some monkeys here, and there's an elephant inside, the saggy baggy elephant. She loved all of her dolls. She had one for each day of the week, but she wanted a Sunday doll. She wanted a doll that looked like her. This says a nickel for an apple and a penny for a pear. I love that little illustration, and I love this colored fabric with it. But her father thought that she had enough dolls and said he wasn't going to bring her any more dolls. There's a donkey here. This says, "Jump, Spot, jump." There's a booklet there. I love that illustration also. I used this blue card and added some of that bright orange dyed paper. And then I tucked in some vintage pieces, a silverware coupon, and a typed card of a recipe. No, it's not a recipe. Folk Dances of British Isles. And this says Black Nag. I wonder if that means a horse. But anyway, it's got the dance steps in there. This is a paper that I dyed with paint. It's got orange and blue paint. But those who trust in the Lord will find new strength. Isaiah 40:31. That came out of a vintage children's book, and I tucked in a letter from 1950 for Miss Annie Boekstra from Ken. If you remember the Dutch girl, I got all those letters from her family in the Netherlands, and these were letters from her American boyfriend while she was here living in the States. And she came here to go to college. That's a vintage, I don't know how old it is, but it is a card catalog card. It says 2004, so it's not vintage. Anyway, she came to the United States to go to school, met a man and married him and stayed here. This is one of the papers that I cleaned off my stencils with. And I just added an image of a coat from a vintage Montgomery Ward book. Made a little journaling card. So she is taking her dolls to a toy maker down the hill. And she asked him to make her a doll for Sundays. He saw all the dolls she had. This is a Victorian piece, used Days soap, and another flashcard tag. So he kept her dolls and told her he would make her a surprise doll. You can tell I did read this one. She had to wait a week, and then she went back. So she explained how each doll had a trait that was similar to hers. Susan had cheeks that were pink from the wind and the sun, and Sonia had a nose that went up like this, just like Mary. So he took all of those traits that were in all of the other dolls and put them all together into the surprise doll. Another slotted pocket with various pieces. This is a digital cigarette card, not a real one. And there's postcard in there. And her doll looks just like her. And here I have another greeting card. It's so cute. It says happy birthday. Oh, it's got little pieces on the back. A toy farm. That's adorable. I didn't even know that was there. And a library card with my signature on the back. So both of these are in my shop right now, and I hope that they will soon find a forever home. The surprise doll and the doll family available in my Etsy shop, which is linked below. Thank you everyone for watching. If you watch the process videos for these, I really appreciate that. I did get some very nice comments on the process videos, and I appreciate that. And I also would appreciate comments on this video. I always read your comments. Thanks for watching everyone, and have a creative day today. Bye-bye.